Oh no, why is it not working? It I'm so good at this. Hi, everybody. Hello.
Hello, fellow humans. I am not a real penguin.
Are you sure? Have you
I
checked?
mean, let me see how much raw fish heads I've been eating recently. Oh, it's none. I'm neither Swedish nor a penguin, so
Yeah, I don't. I mean,
all
I'm not.
good.
I'm not really jonesing for fish heads, but I could go for some raw fish,
I
for
would eat
certain.
sushi right now. I would eat
Yeah.
just so much sushi.
Never mind, guys. We're changing this. We're gonna go have
All
sushi.
right, so thanks for showing up. We
Yeah.
had a big announcement, but we're not gonna
We're gonna
do
have
it now
sushi
because we're
instead.
going for sushi.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Phelan, I do not have happy feet. When I was 21 years old, my legs were shattered in a car accident, and nothing below the knee is happy, or jolly, or even comfortable. So I do occasionally walk like a penguin, though.
Yeah.
So
There
here
you
we
go.
are. Uh,
Oh boy.
do this a little
Starting
bit.
dark. I love it. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy
A
Halloween.
merry Samhain to all.
So let's start with some bad news.
There's some bad
Um,
news.
we are creeping towards the end of this campaign, and we did not reach our 750 pre-order goal.
We did not.
No, we came just a little shy of 75%,
Yay.
which is it's a
I mean,
good
that's good. That's
campaign.
a lot of copies.
It's a lot of copies. I mean, I could do the math, but actually, I'm going to talk numbers in a few moments. But first, anybody that knows my
Oh,
rituals when I'm
oh,
writing,
oh.
I pull out the cognac only when I have an important milestone.
Oh, I did not think this through. My tea
These are
seems so lame now.
my rituals,
I
my
know.
friend.
I should have anticipated
I
the
mean,
ritual.
I'm going to have to refill
Yeah.
the the ritual bottle soon.
If you keep succeeding.
Well, the way it looks, I'm at least going to be celebrating two book launches next year because even though we did not hit the 750 pre-order goal, InkShares emailed me very early in this morning, which I assume is very late last evening for on the West Coast,
Yeah.
to tell me that they were going to be flipping the switch to funded at the end of the campaign, and then they went ahead and messed it up and
Yeah,
flipped it
yeah, yeah.
early.
No,
But
it's fine. It's fine.
yeah, Travis has got it. Like, you
You
don't mess
don't
with
mess with
rituals.
ritual. I know.
So this is the announcement. Achewillow Book One is going to be published.
Yee! Yay! It's
So
very exciting.
let's talk a little bit about why this is happening.
Yeah.
Um, so towards the end of the campaign, you and I were gunning for 75%,
Yes.
a little bit in a symbolic kind of way.
Yeah.
Um, Inkshires had been sort of, yeah, Captain Temerity. So what happened is that I wanted them to only shut off the campaign after the stream, and there was a misunderstanding. So they shut off they didn't put it at funded, so it's not like flagged as in production, but
Yeah.
they still took off the buttons to pre-order,
It's
which is
fine.
embarrassing.
uh.
Um, we
Yeah.
will be putting up a post anyway, because pre-orders, you can pre-order during the entire production period. It's just that the perks are no longer available.
Yeah.
But we're gonna give like a grace period, and we're gonna make
Yeah.
it public
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we control the perks.
Yeah.
We have some leeways. Yes, we control the perks.
My boss
I
today was like, you don't have to make me an ID card. I was like, oh, I am. Don't even don't even
so
pretend like you're not getting one.
So here's the thing that's interesting, because as we were like looking towards the end of the campaign,
Mm-hmm.
feeling a little despondent, we still knew that Inkshares had some interest for a variety of reasons. The first
Yeah.
one being I have an excellent relationship with Inkshares. I've been working with them for seven
Long
years now.
time.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Adam, the CEO's wedding a few years back.
Yeah.
So it's like we're close. Adam owes me a couple of favors for other things that would be uncool to talk about. But anyways, not burying bodies, but close. Um, so and Inkshares had been posting about about Achewillow Book One almost as if it were in production
Yeah.
already,
If
as if
this is your
yeah.
aesthetic, you should read this. We're like, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's
You
not a book
can't.
yet. Like it's not even approved for publishing. So we had kind of an inkling that that's the way they were leaning, but you don't want to jinx it. You don't want to pretend, and you also
We
like
didn't want to pity publish either.
yeah, we didn't want to pity publish, even though that's kind of what we're getting.
It's
I
fine.
like to
No.
yeah, it's fine. We're reaping the fruits of our long 5 years of labor.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing. We'll talk about it later. We're celebrating our fifth anniversary also
Oh
today.
yeah. Oh jeez. I
There's so
maybe
much going on.
forgot that.
It's we loaded Halloween
This is a
2024 with so much shit.
this is huge.
Um,
It's a big day.
it's a big day. It's a big day.
Jeez.
So, and another thing about the hey Ginger Monster. So another thing is that I didn't want to cheat Inkshares out of having the pre-order funds because
Right.
they're an independent publisher. They're doing really well. I mean, they've got an Emmy-nominated television show based on one of their books. Like we're killing it. Like, but at the same time, having the extra bucks to do like to pay for the editing and pay for the first printing and all that, like it's it makes it easier. It makes the process faster. Also allows us to sometimes have cool perks. Like, let me see if I have a copy here. How do I not have a copy? Anyways, like having cool edges and cool printing things here and there.
Mm,
So obviously we didn't want to say, oh yeah, we're absolutely getting published because A, we didn't know for sure. Two, we didn't want to like chicken choke the pre-orders, and also we didn't want to stop doing pre-orders because there's perks
yeah.
associated with the pre-orders.
We
So
put
we
a
kind
lot
of
of work
side
into that
selling.
special.
It's weird to think that starting like tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, like we will have a limited number of people who will have had access to it. Is
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
It's kind of a personal story to me too. So it's a little weird, a bizarre choice. And another thing that we were looking at why Inkshares was interested is I was looking at stats the other day and looking at who was ordering what quantities, and well, probably closer to 45% of books sold were sold as part of a 3 book or more bundle.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people who were ordering were not people we knew. So like we didn't get no one pre-ordered 10 books. So we didn't have any of those sugar daddy situations, which I usually hate. I don't like seeing those. Like I've seen so many Kickstarters from acquaintances doing self-publishing. Is like, oh man, we need $6,000 and there's only 2 hours left, and then suddenly someone like gives $3,000. Like
No.
we know what happened. Like mommy and
Yeah.
daddy like dropped a check, and that's fine. Like you do
Listen,
what you
my
need
mother
to.
ordered a single copy. Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Well, no, and that's fine. Like
Uh-huh.
I wanted our listeners to order because they're the ones we're doing this for. I don't want like Uncle Timmy to order 10 copies
No.
because like he's got the scratch and he wants to help out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, almost half of the books being bought as part of huge bundles shows an immense level of commitment by our community, which is massive. And that's the kind of thing. And also the number, all the people who like friends and strangers who shared our posts and
Yeah.
were really active and commenting and being engaged. Like every
You guys
morning, I
are
would get up.
rabid.
Yeah, like every morning I would get up and like, we're so behind on orders. Like I would get a message or there would be a comment on one of our posts, and like it was like, okay, like fine, like we need to do this if only because people are invested in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm my guess. I mean, I know for a fact that Inkshares noticed that. They see those numbers. They
Yeah.
track pre-orders, and they went like, "All right, we like JF. We work with JF, and this is clearly a community that he's fostered to the point. Well, he and his narrator fostered to a point where, like it's a strong community." And we're not done asking people to help us, but when we're close to
No.
publication, like we're gonna
I
mobilize.
hope you all get really good at book talk
Mm, yeah,
and bookstagram. Your preference. Because
and also
you know.
also like there were like we had some technical issues with Inkshare's website. Like it's an old website, it needs to be
Yeah.
redone. Like it's probably gonna be redone this year. We've had some like we timed this wrong. Like we should have done this campaign during a season, but
But it's too. It was we had to make the day. We had
yeah,
to. It
no,
was
it
too
had
important.
it was.
We
So
were
yeah, so
suckers for ritual.
we're suckers for rituals. We're suckers for punishment also.
Yeah.
Because I you've seen me do the publishing
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
You've
yeah, yeah.
participated and
I
helped
have
me do the
taken you
campaigning
through
thing.
2 other campaigns.
Yes, campaigns. Now you're for the first time we're pulling the veil and pulling you in the post campaign situation.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Listen, I worked at a vanity press. I assure you, I can handle it. My name is on some shady books. I'm
Oh, but this
happy to have it on a real one.
oh, it's like because that's the thing. Like you've got to realize like you're now gonna be a published
A
author
published author.
after
Everybody,
all the writing you've done.
let me go put it on my Twitter bio. Hang on. Well, not Twitter because Twitter sucks, but you know,
Yeah.
all my social
So,
meds.
so yeah, so you're gonna be a published author. You and I have to make upwards of 63 citizens card for
Yep.
Achewillow citizens,
Yep.
and you have to record upwards of 63 thank you messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Ain't no
Problem.
thing. I'll just start a cameo when I'm done.
Might as well at this point, right?
Yeah, you know.
So yeah, you and I have a bit of paperwork I need to outline because we need to take the standard Inkshares contract, tear
Yeah.
it to
Yeah.
pieces, make sure it incorporates all of the split
Mhm.
revenue and
Mhm.
rights stuff like
Audiobook.
fun things ahead.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's it.
That's the
That's
announcement,
the announcement.
gang. Gang,
We're
on
getting
this
published.
our 5th anniversary.
It is a good way to celebrate.
It is.
And there's so many cool things ahead. Like we're gonna get the cover from Lynn at some point,
Yeah.
probably in the next few weeks. We'll be able to unveil that. And every step of the way, like we'll be keeping people updated.
I'll
Just
have pictures with all of my recipe tests.
yes, we've sort of selected an artist for the recipes.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need
yeah.
to. Amy needs to start going back and forth with them to at least get a test going. Yeah, it's gonna be something special.
I hope so.
Oh, it will. My next 2 months are literally just editing 2 books, like
How
November,
much do you love
December,
that?
and
That's your favorite part.
it's fine because I'm not editing with an editor.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, this is an important event. We're celebrating like
It's like a lot
five
of
different
things.
things. Like
Yeah.
yeah, so
It's like a lot.
tuxedos, obviously,
Whatever.
and yeah, D likes 13. Thank you so much. We're also very excited for the books. I'm not I'm not really good at celebrating. Usually, whenever something good like this happen, I have my prerequisite cognac
An
to.
appropriate choice for the evening,
That is
for
true.
the rest of our
Um,
entertainment. I'm having iced
that's
tea.
true. I'm probably gonna shut up very soon and let you do your thing. And
I haven't done
after
one of
this,
these in a hot second.
it's fine.
That's fine. I'm
I
excited.
need to work on an announcement graphic for
Mm-hmm.
our social media. And so I'll leave you to it.
Yeah. I
Um,
just want to remind everybody, like, thank you for all your help because this side of it, it's just the two, it's just us. Like, this is it. This right here is all of it.
as that is one of the funny things. Like you guys probably know better than most, but sometimes I will get messages and people will talk about like the Achewillow team. Like there's a dozen of us. It's like,
It's
no,
us, man, and our very dedicated friends.
like, it's just these two morons and whoever
Yeah.
chose to support them.
Yeah. Thanks, because we couldn't do it without you. All right.
Yep.
You want to hear a story, guys? Guys, do you want to hear a story? They do. Jeff, mute your microphone. We're leaving him here because he's going to come back at the end. All right. Now I have to set everything up differently. Here we go. There's that window and this window. Sure. Seems good. All right, kids. Everybody cozy? Everybody have a snack, maybe? Some Halloween candy? A nice beverage of your choice? A warm one if you're feeling so inclined. It's 1,000,000 degrees here, so I have a mix, but here we are. All right. Here we go. Achewillow. Special episode. A Spirit of Spirits. I had always thought of jealousy as having one of two flavors. Based on my own experiences, I assumed that I clicked the wrong window. Anyway, based on my own experiences, I assumed it was either a salty thing, born of envy and inspiring nothing but anger and resentment, or from observing others, it had more of a saccharine taste, dripping of sadness and self-loathing. Having always been aware but never a fan of envy, I would have preferred that second kind of jealousy. From my point of view, it seemed like the path to self-improvement, and I wanted that for myself. With a few years of hindsight, the irony seems a lot more obvious now. The ordeal had been coming for some time. Like a toothache, it had sprung up one day, mild and indolent. It was no immediate cause for concern, but as time wore on, so did the enamel, exposing more and more of the nerve. Eventually, the offending chunk of bone demanded to be looked at, and the pain becoming near unbearable. The roots felt weak, and their hold onto the jaw was loosening. Even the gums seemed to recede. So, a dentist is found, and an appointment is written into the calendar. Something has to be done once and for all. Maybe it won't be that bad. Perhaps it's a cavity that's been blown out of proportion. But it could also be that the tooth is rotten to the core, and nothing short of extraction or, mother forbid, a root canal is necessary. Regardless, I'd been looking on this day as one might this imaginary dentist appointment, with dread, annoyance, fear, but maybe a little bit of hope, too. Ta-da! Annabelle burst out from the forest ahead of me like a game show contestant walking onto stage. I remember the faded red of her hair looked pink on that overcast day. She spread her arms to her sides and twirled, pebbles cracking and crunching under her feet. We'd spent almost half an hour walking a beaten path through the pine forests north of Achewillow, cutting through unrelenting humidity and tolerating some of the worst bugs Quebec has to offer. From the mosquitoes that threaten to enter your ears with a loud buzzing, to the mosquitoes that land on your naked leg to take a generous sip of blood. All the while, I'd been carrying a solid 40 extra pounds of food, drinks, towels, and cooking equipment that were meant to turn this terrible idea of a day into a worthwhile adventure. I stepped out from under the shadow of evergreens and into the timid glow of distant clouds. Oppressive humidity was suddenly reinforced by the heat of the sun, as diffuse as it was by the covered sky. There it was, my proverbial dentist appointment. The place the maps insisted was named Dalton Lake, though everyone else called it either Leech Lake or Leech Beach, depending on whether they preferred alliteration or rhymes. "What do you think?" Annabelle beamed. "Like our own private chunk of the Bahamas." Post-apocalyptic Bahamas, maybe. There was not a lot to be impressed with. The sand, if any, was hidden under a thick layer of smooth, dime-sized pebbles. I could feel them digging through the soles of my sneakers, threatening agony to whoever would go barefoot in this place. The beach itself was the water. Beyond the beach itself was the water, dark and forbidding. Even from a distance, I could tell it was cold and murky, its bottom the texture of wet icing. Patches of vegetation, the color of lentil soup, floated at the surface near shore. Then there was the smell. Whatever lived in those waters was either dying or wishing for death. Tall evergreens that walled off the lake kept wind to a minimum, trapping humidity and stench alike. "Come on," my friend said, trying to encourage me while struggling to strip to her bathing suit. "We only get a few days to enjoy this place. Next week, the water will have receded too much and the algae will choke the surface. And last week, there were still way too many leeches. This is all we get. Theater of the mind, Miriam. Imagine that it's a gorgeous white sand beach." Peter Pan's Lost Boys wouldn't have had enough imagination between the lot of them to think Leech Lake as a tropical getaway. During previous years, I'd managed to dodge joining my friends on their annual excursion here, leaning on my work at the cafe or visits to Montreal to avoid this social obligation. That year, though, Annabelle cornered me, making sure my calendar was clear before springing her invitation. On the bright side, that was back in the day when I still thought misery was a dish best shared. "You really take me to the best places, don't you?" Looking over my shoulder, I watch Ophelia emerge from the dirt path. At first, I thought she was complaining at Gulliver, who was following behind, but I was quickly reminded that she reserved that level of acidity only for me. To be fair, it had been my idea that she join us. We laugh about it now, but I did it entirely and completely out of spite. Well, I laugh about it now. I set up as best I could. The rocky, uneven ground made it difficult to use my new camping stove. There was nowhere to put down a towel and lie down comfortably. My plans to relax and get some reading done weren't looking good, and the idea of taking a swim in the waters of Leech Lake didn't appeal. Thankfully, there was plenty of people watching to do. Seemed like almost everyone from Achewillow wanted to take advantage of the narrow window of opportunity and enjoy the beach. The smart and experienced ones had brought folding chairs and inflatable mattresses. Hauling those through the woods must have been a hassle, but one well worth it when compared to lying on a bed of rocks. Kids were the only ones who seemed to have any enthusiasm for the adventure. No sooner would they arrive on site than they'd toss off their t-shirts and run towards the water, kicking off sandals and flip-flops once they reached the edge. "I'm surprised your swimsuit isn't knitted." I took a jab at Ophelia as she disrobed to test the water. In fact, she was wearing the blandest one-piece black suit imaginable. There was still a tag attached, testifying to it being a last-minute purchase. "Hilarious," she replied, pulling off the tag. "But you'll be happy to know I brought everyone some towels I made." Tiptoeing through the pebbles, she made her way to one of her bags. Proud and smug, she brought out a half-dozen thin towels, picking out a forest green one to toss in my direction. You're kidding. When choosing a towel, there isn't a long list of materials I'd go for. Terry cloth, cotton, maybe linen, but not this. Hand knit, she bragged, as if that was a feature one would look for in a beach towel. I dropped the damn thing to the ground next to me and focused on my cooking. After all, if we're going to suffer a subpar day at a terrible beach, we might as well have some life-changing burgers. Shooing away flies and heating up my brand new camping stove, I watched with curiosity the modest crowd braving the pebbles and dark waters. It felt like we were role-playing a proper vacation, playing pretend at having fun. The line separating locals from visitors was evident at a glance. Annabelle, like the children and a handful of adults, was quick to the water, running in with abandon. Not a moment of hesitation, no time to look for any stray leeches, just the pure disrespect for the unknown. The lake could have swallowed the lot of them whole, and they would have gone down with a grin on their faces. "Not gonna jump in?" Eric asked, struggling to keep his balance while removing his shoes. "Nah, waiting for Annabelle's exsanguinated remains to wash up first." My humor was lost on my brother, and he opted to pal around with Gulliver instead. While having somewhat made my peace with Ophelia, it still stung to see the two of them together. And despite months separating me from the event, I could still not fully shake the image of my friend breaking his hand on the Achewillow's counter. Watching them, though, it was hard denying they looked comfortable as a pair. I don't think anyone would accuse them of excessive passion, but they seemed to each have a calming effect on the other. Knowing what I know now, I'm glad I had the grace to allow them these moments. "Gonna hit the water?" Eric asked, giving Gulliver a friendly punch to the shoulder. The sizzling of ground meat swallowed the rest of their conversation, but I was satisfied seeing Eric try to make friends. Achewillow, while a suitable refuge for him, had been somewhat of a culture shock. The little rural village couldn't compete in options with the urban vitality of Montreal. Our one lonely tavern had nothing on the hundreds of bars, clubs, pubs, and discos in the big city. Gulliver was all smiles that day. I remember him laughing with the nonchalance that had put me at ease when we first met. His throat bare and white teeth exposed to the sky, he always had an honesty to his good humor. The one thing that didn't sit right with me was how he never took off his pants. Everyone else was at least pretending they were going to face the cold depths of Leech Lake, but Gulliver kept his black jeans and sneakers. "That water is colder than a witch's teeth," Annabelle said, making her sheepish way back to our corner of the beach. "No offense." Without asking, she picked up the green towel next to my bag and without thinking wrapped it around her shivering shoulders. I expected her to throw it away, irritated at the texture and how sodden the wool would be. It would be like trying to wipe down a counter with a shawl, inefficient and useless. Instead, Annabelle appeared to melt like a slice of camembert atop a warm crostini. Her spine curled like a shrimp in hot butter, while her features softened, ice cream under a summer sun. And with barely any wiping or dabbing of the cloth, she was dry, even her hair. A quick glance at Ophelia, wearing a satisfied grin, confirmed my suspicions. "You're welcome," she said, unpacking more of her towels to distribute to everyone around. Ophelia had her own brand of magic, and back then she was a far better witch than I. It's difficult to admit now, and was impossible to accept then. So I did what I did best. I clenched my teeth and tried to one-up her. As luck would have it, I'd brought my own little surprise. Oh, I remember spending quite a while digging through the family cookbook, looking for something fun and flashy that I could cook up on the go. I flipped the burgers, adding some buns to toast and slices of thin brie for flavor. The magic was already there, though, ground into the meat with spices and chopped onions. I'd shaped every patty myself, whispering the incantations just as written in Melody's recipe. Sure, the original was meant for meat pies, but I knew where the enchantment was centered and felt confident that I could adapt it to burgers without risk. It worked like a charm, too. The first and most important magic was the flavor. The inclusion of strips of smoked Atlantic salmon to the meat gave it a bit of a kick, emphasized by the fresh cracked pepper and a touch of balsamic vinegar. Even Ophelia, who of course had brought her own lunch despite my instructions, was forced to admit just how good the burgers were. The second, more mystical part of the spell, however, was a surprise. "Aren't we supposed to wait before we go swimming?" Eric asked, referring to the old belief that kids shouldn't swim immediately after eating. There was no reason to bother with an answer. What was the threat of a cramp when compared to icy waters and voracious leeches? I've long ago learned the value of leading by example, and on that day, I did just that. Not only to show my big brother that the waters were safe, even on a full stomach, but also to show off just what I had done. Taking a deep breath, I plunged into the dark lake. It was like diving through pure night. The glistening surface separating me from the blood-sucking monsters broke with little effort, and the cold stole the breath from my lungs. The good news was that I didn't need it. Once over the shock, transitioning from the warm sun to the icy waters, I was able to look around and, for the first time, taste the sights of Leech Lake. I remember feeling something akin to awe. While there was plenty of silt and debris kicked up by my plunge and previous bathers, there remained a quiet beauty to this side of the surface. Strands of kelp reached from the murky depths as if trying to escape some cruel fate. Beams of light danced around in near magical ballet dictated by the waves. There was no leech in sight, and not a fish to be seen. Allowing myself to sink to the bottom, I sat in the sandy clay and looked up. Sounds were amplified yet muffled. Everything that happened under the glassy surface roared into my ears, from splashing children to the paddling of inflatable rafts. Meanwhile, the laughter and cries of the surface world were distorted and weak, struggling to reach me in this underwater realm. Seconds ticked away, stretching themselves into a minute and soon into 2. Splashes, urgent and panicked, cracked the silence, and soon 2 large bodies were diving to the bottom of Leech Lake, expecting to find a drowning Miriam. To Eric and Gulliver's surprise, they discovered me with a smile on my face. Once I knew they'd seen me, I swam away, never going up for air. The spell worked like a charm. Soon, Annabelle and even Ophelia joined in. The spell wasn't so powerful that we didn't need to come to the surface once in a while, and those more athletic, like Eric and Gulliver, could remain under for 5 or 6 minutes. It was tempting to explore farther from the beach, to swim to the middle of the lake and see its true depth, but no amount of breath made that journey less forbidding. It's difficult to say who won our petty magical duel that day, Ophelia or me. But once our frolicking done, I shamelessly used her gifted towel to dry myself. My feet hurting from walking on the pebbles, my muscles aching from more exercise than I'd done in months, I was ready to call this terrible day an unlikely success. And that's when I noticed Annabelle. Let me take a drink. Thank goodness there's breaks in here. That's all I'm saying. I do make a lot of faces. Can't help it. I got in a lot of trouble acting in high school because I was just grinning the whole time because it's so much fun. Walking back to town was an unexpected, ebullient event. The boys were talking about their adventures under Leech Lake, attempting to show each other up with friendly brags about the speed or depth at which they swam. Meanwhile, Ophelia wore a smile of rare serenity. I'd seen this woman vengeful, angry, petty, and vitriolic. The only time I'd witnessed joy in her eyes was when licking the plate from a hearty serving of my failures. Through everything, I don't think I'd ever seen her comfortable and content. I would have loved to have indulged with them and share the moment. It would be some time before we'd all have a reason to laugh together like this again, but I couldn't, not with one of us left apart. "It's nothing," Annabelle preempted as I sidled up beside her. The same girl who'd insisted we go to the awfully named Leech Lake and practically danced over sharp rocks to take the first dip spoke in a flat voice, devoid of enthusiasm or joy. "Oh, well, if you say so, let me just take my concern and worry elsewhere then. Come on, spit it out." "It's stupid," she confessed, lowering her voice and hastening her steps so the others wouldn't hear. It wouldn't be unusual for Annabelle to have organized this whole afternoon in an attempt to escape some personal issue, only to have it hound her again once done. "Maybe it is," I said, "but who am I to judge? You've seen my track record. So, what is it? A guy? Your mom? Eric being a jerk? Because I can help with that last one." She paused, allowing us to cross San Andrew and make it to the sidewalk. The late afternoon had invited thick clouds to crowd the sky, leaving but a thin band of pink and orange on the horizon. Looked like we were walking underneath a fresh trout fillet. "It's you," Annabelle answered after a moment. "You and Ophelia." Sensing more distress than I'd first sniffed out, I took my friend's arm in mine and leaned in to try to look in her eyes. "If you think I'm getting too chummy with her, don't worry. The enemy of my enemy isn't my friend quite yet, probably ever. But I try to play nice for Gulliver's sake." "That's not it," she frowned. "I thought we were going to go to the lake, have a laugh at how terrible it is, eat a little, drink a little, and then come home. But you two had to magic it all up. And there's nothing wrong with that, except I can't be a part of it." A younger version of me would have laughed. What a silly thing to be upset over. Neither Eric nor Gulliver had any trick up their sleeves either, and that did nothing to dampen their enjoyment. In fact, who in Achewillow could have toiled over their cauldrons and waved their wands if not the two resident witches? No one expected Annabelle to perform any magic of her own. Except for Annabelle, of course. To laugh would have been unkind. "Trust me," I reassured her. "Getting into magical pissing contests with Ophelia is nothing to envy. Besides, it's not like you can't do a little magic of your own." "Miriam, I know one trick, and all it does is upset people. Impossibly dry towels and burgers of infinite water breathing are a little out of my reach right now. They'll probably always be." Of the many qualities Annabelle possessed, her ability to spark her enthusiasm into a roaring flame is amongst the most admirable. It takes a lot to mire her into a bog of gloom. Pouting, frowning, and clenching the strap of her bag like she could squeeze comfort out of it was all I needed to know that this was one of those rare occasions. "Sure you will," I tried to cheer her up. "But you can't compare yourself to Ophelia and me. I got a big old book of recipes to work with, and Ophelia's been trained by her elders. You're pulling your own discipline out of thin air. You can't expect that to come easily." We got to the crossroads between San Andrew and Rue Principale. This should have been my time to split from the group and make my way home. Ophelia and Gulliver were already going their own way, and my weary muscles demanded rest. Let me come over, I offered before thinking. Show me what you've got. I can't promise any pointers, but I can at least be a sounding board. Oh, the things I do for friends. It's fine. She brushes me and my offer away. You don't need to wallow in my funk. Come on, it'll be fun. 2 creepy witches getting drunk on spells. Tell me that's not something you've been dreaming about. And there it was, the spark. Weak for now, it flickered in her eyes like a touch of golden light. Her cheeks pushed up and her lip curled into a half smile of mischief and temptation. Well, she said, weak confidence pushing the words out of her mouth. There are a few things I've been meaning to try. Arriving at the apartment Annabelle shares with my brother, my friend seemed to have regained most of her joie de vivre. That same energy that made her dive into a cold lake earlier in the day animated her limbs as she climbed the stairs and unlocked the door. So, Eric said, tossing his bag on the floor and stretching his arms. What are we trying? I exchanged a look with Annabelle, attempting that quiet telepathy friends sometimes share. Eric's my brother, but this is her home. We, she said, are trying a new drink. Meanwhile, you can try that shooter game I keep faking interest in over breakfast. Are you serious? But I love drinks. Grabbing his bag and shoving it into his arms, I pushed Eric towards his room. We'll bring you drinks later. Right now, we're having a girls' night. And wear some headphones. It's going to get noisy. With a little more verbal and physical pressure, we managed to get Eric into his room and close the door on him. I have to admit to a certain malicious joy bullying him in his own home, but I needed Annabelle to myself if I was going to get her spirits up. I could have a girls' night, were the last words we heard Eric say from behind his door. Satisfied, wiping my hands together, I walked back to the small kitchen. My brother and Annabelle's apartment was the rope in a constant tug-of-war of cleanliness. Each had their obsessions, and the ever-changing state of things was an indicator of who was winning at the time. Empty counters, clean dishes, and meticulously placed cushions on the sofa were a sign that Eric had the upper hand this week. Annabelle preferred a wilder aesthetic for her decor. Meanwhile, Eric leaned toward clean lines and minimalist arrangements. It was a wonder they got along so well. You see, Annabelle started, pulling out bottle after bottle, neatly arranging them next to the sink. The problem I'm noticing with trying to do magic with liquor and drinks is how chaotic things get. Knitting is all about order and patterns, while baking relies on precise chemistry. Making a magic cocktail is as much about vibes as it is about the drink itself. Sitting on a stool opposite her, I was reminded of the Achewillow and how I would offer counsel and coffee from behind the counter. It was interesting to see Annabelle take my place in this setting. She reminded me of myself those first few days at the cafe. All right, I said, allowing her to take the lead. What have you got? Well, when I was in Montreal, I saw this guy make something called dragon shot. Now, usually it's just a very boozy green or red mix, mostly vodka, rum, and schnapps. But this dude, wiry fellow with dark skin and raven hair, wearing a full suit like an undertaker, he'd float a thin layer of cognac on top and light it. It smelled sweet like boiling sugar, and it'd warm up the entire bar. Best of all, in a dimly lit room, the flames would look like a dragon taking flight. I swear, with one of those in your stomach, you could walk home in the dead of winter without so much as a shiver. I blinked a few times, looking around at the wooden cabinets and the wooden cutting boards. I took notice of the roll of very flammable paper towels next to the microwave and the vase of dried flowers in the corner near the refrigerator. That sounds a little intimidating, I said, already imagining a blaze consuming the little kitchen. Got anything a little less all-consuming? Energy undampened, Annabelle began listing a variety of cocktails and shots, all of which she'd seen at some point during her pilgrimage. From mixed liquor that could cure a cold to fruity drinks that promised to help you dance to any rhythm, there was something for everyone. There was also the standard collection of love potions and truth serums. She even mentioned a cocktail that would help you stay awake for hours. That last one sounded like coffee that got you drunk, and I can make that without a hint of magic. In the end, most of those either lacked the flair Annabelle was looking for or had effects that are difficult to measure, especially when consuming alcohol. It made me wonder if this particular brand of mystical mixology was just getting drunk and lying to yourself. Finally, we settled on a simple yet interesting shot. A classic I remember my father mentioning, but had never seen anyone my age order. A monkey's brain. In most circumstances, it's a gimmick drink, more interesting for its form than its flavor. It's a simple shot to make, too. Irish cream is carefully poured into a mix of vodka and lemon juice. The citrus curdles the cream, allowing it to form into a vaguely brain-shaped lump. A few drops of grenadine bring the illusion to life by simulating blood. A little trick on Annabelle's part, and the shot would have its touch of magic. Always remember, I explained, it's all about the intent. I also made a note to teach her to make her own grenadine syrup and how to put together a little altar in her kitchen. In time, she'd learn to shop for better ingredients and strengthen her connection to what went into every one of her drinks. For now, the cheap store-bought liquor would have to do. Right, she said, her tongue sticking out from between her teeth as she concentrated. I watched her work, fiddling with a bottle of peppermint schnapps while Annabelle measured and poured her vodka. Twisting the bottle around in my hands, I made a big show of going over the label. Twisting off the cap, I gave the contents a curious whiff, feigning detached interest. And, if you have any, use fresh pressed lemon juice. Right, Annabelle repeated, looking up. She turned around and dug through her refrigerator. I heard the produce drawer open and close and the rustling of a plastic bag. And, while her attention was elsewhere, I poured a single drop of peppermint schnapps into her shot glass. So, what does this one do? Not more fire, I hope. Annabelle turned around, proudly brandishing a small yellow lemon and a paring knife. Nope. There's an underground, unlicensed, unsavory dive on Saint Laurent where this tall woman who calls herself the vodka czar mixes weird drinks. None of them are magical, except for this one. Legend has it that, if done properly, when you take the shot, if you have a question, the brain will answer it. Truth-saying spells are always ambitious, and this one felt no different. The simplicity of ingredients and the ease of assembly meant that most of the mysticism relied on the mixologist. Considering Annabelle's lack of experience, I was worried it wouldn't work. Fortunately, I had infused a little bit of my own magic. The schnapps wasn't added as a matter of taste. Peppermint is an ingredient associated with boosting confidence and self-esteem, two virtues I found my friend lacking. If nothing else, she would benefit from her spell. If nothing else, she would benefit from her spell in an unexpected way. Meticulous as a clockmaker, Annabelle poured the Irish cream into the shot glass, careful that the drizzle would sculpt itself into as close a replica of a brain as possible. Then, whispering to herself in the process, she counted exactly 3 drops of grenadine. Together, we leaned in from both sides of the counter to get a closer look. To her credit, Annabelle had concocted a perfectly gross brain the size of a walnut and bathing in liquor. "Want to do the honors?" she offered. I can't really think of anything to ask. "Really? Nothing?" She sounded surprised. "I can think of a dozen things I need answers to." My lips stretched into a wide and mischievous smile as I pulled away from the glass. With a gentle nudge, I pushed the shot closer to its creator, making sure none of the contents was disturbed or spilled over. "Well, in that case, bottoms up." Let me take a drink. Let me read. Let me catch up on all the text. Yeah, there will be a VOD, and I'm gonna try and remember to put it on the YouTube this time. Isn't Merrimack Girls third person? Is Merrimack Girls third person? JF, is Merrimack Girls third person? Because I killed that. Trav, you should. All right, here we go. Okay. It's a long one. The mood was buoyant. Two friends about to do some witchy things and share some drinks. If all went well, Annabelle would get a little mystical boost of confidence and maybe even an answer to whatever question lingered in her mind. Of course, this wouldn't be much of a story if everything went to plan. Annabelle picked up the shot glass, raised it over her head, and smiled a nervous smile. "Santé." "Santé," I echoed, then caught myself. Wait, is it supposed to do that? Looking up, Annabelle squinted at her drink, then frowned. She brought the shot glass to eye level, where we both studied the contents anew. The brain was moving. A subtle pulsation animated the Irish cream, while the grenadine had begun to circulate between the ridges of the false organ. What was originally a poor imitation of gray matter had become a realistic and almost living replica. "No," Annabelle confirmed. "That ain't right. Ain't right at all." No sooner did she voice her diagnosis that the shot exploded to life. We both cried out, and my friend dropped the glass to the counter. The contents, however, didn't spill or splash. Instead, they landed, semi-solid, next to the bottle of peppermint schnapps. The vodka mix sloshed and flowed, taking on a vague humanoid form around a head containing the brain. Like a cornered rat, the newborn liquor homunculus scampered, dodging between the multitude of bottles on Annabelle's counter. A shaker was sent crashing to the floor while a bottle of wine teetered after being bumped. What the hell? We both stood, paralyzed in the moment. My experiences with small magical creatures rampaging around kitchens were wall-to-wall negative at that time. Whatever alcohol golem we had concocted, it wasn't one I had any intention of allowing to roam. "Where is it?" I asked, rummaging through my bag for some sort of weapon. "Behind the gin." Sorry, that was really loud. Sorry. "Behind the gin." Annabelle grabbed a bottle of vodka by the neck to use as a cudgel. In the back of my mind, I had the sneaking suspicion that my meddling might have had something to do with this unexpected turn of events. Pulling my trusty wooden spoon from amongst my things, I pushed the thought away. There would be time to distribute blame later. For now, my goal was to avoid a repeat of the macaron sprite incident. "Nudge the bottles," I instructed. "Try to force it out." In hindsight, I'm not quite sure what was so scary about the booze creature. It had no natural weapons and was smaller than a rat. If it was capable of fear, it must have been far more afraid of us than we were of it. But when the unreasonable happens, people do unreasonable things. Keeping as much distance as she could, Annabelle pushed the bottles of her collection closer to each other, poking at them until they were lined up against the wall. The ploy had the desired effect, but in a far more dramatic way than anticipated. The alcohol golem didn't scamper out harmlessly from its hiding place. Instead, it rushed from behind the bottles, sending another few rolling off the counter. We both screamed in shock, and I swiped my spoon at the homunculus, hoping to hit the brain and put an end to the unnatural creation. I missed. The spoon went low, cutting the liquid body in half, but as the utensil went through, the vodka and lemon juice, tendrils of clear drink shot out from the creature. Unexpected and strong, the boozy tentacles managed to tear the spoon from my hand. Liquid was quick to seep into the wood grain, strengthening the alcohol golem's grasp. For a second, I thought I had lost my spoon. It may not sound like a big deal, but I had a strong emotional attachment to that particular kitchen utensil and no desire to see it broken or destroyed by a spell gone wrong. Fortunately, I didn't have to linger long on that dread. Annabelle was just as quick to violence as I was, bringing down her bottle of cheap vodka with all the might and finesse of an ogre, war cry and all. The bottle hit home, shattering on impact with the countertop. Shards of broken glass and puddles of strong-smelling vodka went flying through the kitchen. To my relief, my precious spoon clattered against the oven door before falling to the floor, clear of most of the creature's remains. Our clothes, faces, and hair were splattered with vodka, and I remember my eyes stinging from the liquor. For a second, the kitchen was quiet, and everything remained still. Only the sound of dripping vodka broke the silence, a subtle reminder of our short adventure. "Well," Annabelle said after a moment, "that couldn't have gone any worse." My friend has lived her entire life in Achewillow. She's known the town is home to supernatural forces since her early teens. Her own mother is mayor and guardian of our little village. Of all those close to me, she, above all, should know not to utter such words in the wake of a mystical mishap. No sooner were the words out of Annabelle's mouth that it started happening. Like a gust of wind over the surface of a sleeping lake, a ripple traversed the spilled vodka. Pulling itself from the puddle that covered the counter, dragging shards of sharp, clear glass along with it, the liquor began to flow back towards the point of impact. Despite her best and most violent effort, Annabelle had missed the brain. Like a discarded meatball, it lay soaked in the remains of its body. Pulsing, it sucked at the vodka in which it bathed, shaping its form anew, but with additional materials this time. With more liquor, it built a larger body, and with the glass shrapnel that littered the counter, it made itself an arsenal of teeth and claws. Like two paralyzed idiots, we stood and watched, witnessing the rebirth of something terrible, allowing the homunculus, now the size of a lean cat, to attack. Vengeful, it first took a swipe at Annabelle, drawing a thin line of blood from her arm. Where most people would have screamed and recoiled, however, my friend was true to her lineage, answering with a growl. The average person, myself included, would have probably run, but Annabelle was looking for a weapon. Brave though she might have been, this was not the time. "We gotta get out of here," I grabbed her arm and pulled her away from the counter. She grabbed another bottle, the Irish cream this time. Instead of trying another ill-fated swing, though, she used the brown bottle to keep the liquor golem at a distance. We inched our way back to the living room, vodka dripping from our clothes and glass cracking underfoot. All the while, the homunculus paced the countertop like a feral animal. By happenstance, it had taken the form of a liquid octopus, prowling on an irregular assortment of tentacles and tendrils while its brain floated freely within the main body. Without a face, without a voice, it conveyed everything through body language. Fear, anger, and hostility expressed as quick, jerky movements and the occasional stabbing at nothing. Whether there was sentience in that improvised brain was difficult to determine. Magic, especially improvised magic gone wrong, is a carnival of chaos and danger. While the curiosity did nibble at the back of my mind, there was no time to stop and study the being. As we backed away to a safe distance, our animated shot lost interest in us. Instead, it padded around the counter, finding every last drop of vodka, absorbing them into its body, growing with every milliliter.
I don't like this,
Annabelle whispered.
Don't worry,
I said, a weak attempt at reassurance.
there's only so much vodka for it to sponge up. How much bigger can it possibly get?
My voice, meant to be firm and strong, shook with those last few words, betraying my own worry and uncertainty. In fact, my mind was already painting terrible landscapes using only the darkest colors. What if this creature we had summoned wasn't limited to vodka or even liquor? What if it found its home in the sink, drinking from the faucet to grow ever larger, absorbing everything into itself as it went along? What if destroying the brain only fractured the golem into multitudes of other creatures? Annabelle had her hand clasped over the cut on her arm. Rivulets of blood spilled over from between her fingers. A single crimson drop fell on her exposed knee, splashing into the shape of a dandelion. All I could think of was the grenadine dripping in the shot minutes before.
Do you have any idea how much alcohol I keep in this apartment? You see that big jug with the bottles? That's 2 liters of the absolute worst bottom shelf vodka the law allows in stores. It's the swill I use to make the mixes at the Donselites or wherever I go that people don't know their alcohol. And I've got 3 more bottles just like it under the counter. If that thing figures out how to open them, it could get pretty damn big. The good news is it's plastic, so it can't just shatter on the kitchen tiles.
As if on cue, a bottle of spiced rum fell over, crashing behind the counter. We crouched behind the couch, eyes still locked onto the vodka golem. Through the jerking of its randomly put-together body, it seemed to sniff at the air before slithering down to the floor. My fingers dug into Annabelle's arms, fear coursing electric through my veins. We looked to the floor and we looked to the rest of the furniture, searching for any sign of the creature. The ticking of glass claws on ceramic tiles told us it was still in the kitchen, but for how long? To our relief, it eventually climbed back onto the counter. Half leaping, half sloshing, it splashed itself up, always keeping its brain well protected. Then, to Annabelle's horror, it started to push more bottles to the floor.
Oh, come on,
she lamented. The sorrow was palpable in her voice. Every crash was another chunk of money ripped from her already lean wallet. Her teeth would grit and gasps of horror would escape her throat every time the golem chose a bottle for destruction. And each time it would spasm, sniffing the air and turning away unsatisfied, then select another victim.
Please, no, not that one.
I don't know booze, but I can recognize a bottle of Johnny Walker. I used the red label one when I needed decent scotch for a recipe. This one looked to have a black label. And it, too, crashed to the floor. I thought Annabelle would cry. Then, finally, as my friend struggled to contain her sobs, the liquor golem found the large plastic bottle. Tapping its surface with a glass claw, it seemed to recognize that this was not a bottle like the others. Where the glass on glass would emit a satisfying high note, this one would suck in most of the sound. The surface offered a different kind of resistance, bending before moving. It looks almost curious, I suggested, odd when I should have been worried. The same glass claws scratched at the bottle's surface over and over, scoring it with an ever-deepening gash. Before long, it would reach the liquid and feast. "All right," I said, letting go of Annabelle's arm. "Enough." My meddling had caused this mess, and it was time for me to put an end to it, or at least bring the situation to a more manageable version of itself. I grabbed the fishbowl full of glass beads and seashells that served as a centerpiece to the living room coffee table. One of those uninspired decorations that look like nothing and exist only to fill up space. Definitely not one of Eric's choices. Emptying the contents onto the hardwood floor, I made my way back to the counter. Bowl held high above my head, I tried to sneak as best I could. But how does one creep up on something without eyes, ears, or even a nose? This is a creature that exists outside of senses, yet seems to exhibit all the behaviors of an animal with all of them. Thankfully, the golem's attention was consumed entirely by the enormous bottle of vodka. Every scratch was like a painter's stroke, bringing closer a life-changing masterpiece for its maker. With every scratch, I took a step. At last, I was so close I could see myself reflected upon the golem's surface. My features, twisted and deformed by the liquid shape, still managed to convey my fear with what I was about to attempt. Then, when I was finally within reach, I brought the bowl down, swift and decisive. The edges cut through the vodka golem's limbs, leaving them to splash onto the counter, lifeless and inanimate. I managed to halt my movement at the last inch, keeping me from breaking even more glass, but still capturing the golem in the fishbowl. "Ha ha ha ha!" I cried, triumphant. "Gotcha, you little imp." I was hit with a strong sense of deja vu. Like I had done the exact same thing before. And with that feeling came an overwhelming sense of dread, a vague memory that it hadn't gone well. Vodka sloshed around the upturned bowl, Irish cream brain floating this way and that. Shards of broken bottle tapped at the glass, making more noise than harm. The more it fought, the more I relaxed. Like the macaron sprite before, I had captured the magical anomaly, except this time before anyone was seriously hurt. "I got it," I remember calling out with so much confidence. A rookie move. Turns out, those decorative globes aren't made of the sturdiest material. The glass is thin and delicate. They're built to look pretty and show off their contents, not to withstand continuous and determined attacks. Whatever crude intelligence animated the vodka, lemon juice, and Irish cream quickly picked up on that. The raw, uncooked sentience gathered all of the shards of glass it had been using for claws and teeth, balling them together into a single mass. Then, like a clam spitting water, it vomited the fragments into the inner surface of the bowl, spreading cracks like a spider web. I could see what kind of pie was being baked and pulled my hands away from the bowl before it shattered. Thin glass is sharp glass, and the liquor golem now had a fresh batch of large, keen shards to play with. Instead of turning this new arsenal towards me, the creature lashed at the plastic bottle of vodka, slicing a clean wound through its neck, allowing clear liquid to pour out. The homunculus seemed to forget about me in that instant, focusing on the bottle and the pungent vodka. I backed away while the creature latched itself on the bottle, sucking and slicing, bisecting it to absorb every last drop.
I don't want to be a critic,
Annabelle started to lament. I know.
but I think you messed up.
I know. We watched enthralled and awestruck while the vodka golem drank its fill. Before long, it had become the size of a basset hound, except with more teeth and a worse attitude.
I'm so stupid,
Annabelle whispered, mortified. The golem had gone back to test bottles for their contents, like a cat pushing them off the counter and observing the results for something to use.
I don't have what it takes for this. I'm not like you and Ophelia.
Don't say that, I countered. I didn't want to get into it at the time. Too much baggage to unpack and too many mixed feelings to untangle. Mostly, though, I didn't want to admit my part in the catastrophe.
It's true. I reached too high, and now there's another weird monster on the loose in Achewillow. And I know you're going to figure it out. You'll solve this. I just hope no one gets hurt before you do.
The last of the bottles, some cheap gin, fell to the ground with a crash. The air smelled of booze and flowers, stinging our eyes the longer we stayed in the room. Another crash. The golem had pried open one of the cupboards above the counter, spilling the contents of glasses, bowls, and plates to the floor. Not an heirloom amongst them, and while they were average dinnerware bought from some big box store, the sheer quantity amongst them the sheer quantity added to the vast amount of alcohol spilled, all of it amounted to hundreds, if not thousands of dollars wasted. There was more damage to come, yet the real concern was for our lives. More blood dripped from between Annabelle's fingers as she held her arm, proof of the vodka golem's capacity for harm. While we obviously wanted the destruction to stop, our pressing concern was safety and the safety of everyone else in Achewillow should this thing get loose. Watching the creature tear through a second cupboard, this time tossing glasses, cups, and mugs down, it became clear the couch we hid behind would offer no real protection. The speed at which liquid limbs whipped through the cupboard would let the creature be on top of us before we could run, and the strength displayed with how it held itself aloft would allow the monster to tear us to shreds. What if we set it ablaze? I suggested from between my teeth. Like a crepe Suzette. We light it on fire and let it burn itself out.
In my apartment? I still don't have a steady job and would rather not lose my deposit, thank you very much. And that's if we don't turn ourselves into living bonfires in the process. Then there's your brother who's still in his room.
All right, I interrupted. It was a stupid idea. Unless... I grabbed the bottle of Irish cream out of Annabelle's hand, brandishing it like a trophy. What if we use this? I unscrewed the top of the bottle, allowing the fresh aroma of cocoa and vanilla to mix with the harsh smell of mixed liquor. It keeps trying to get vodka to grow bigger. Maybe it'll be just as interested in getting a little more brain matter. Eyes wide with fear and self-doubt, Annabelle looked back and forth between me and the creature. The vodka golem had been busy playing around with a toaster oven pilfered from the last top cupboard in the kitchen. Soon it would start digging through the ones under the counter where Annabelle had boasted more vodka was stored. Once it got to those, we'd be dealing with a monster the size of a German shepherd. Then, I insisted, once we're outside, we can light it on fire and let it burn. Unsure and hesitant, Annabelle shook her head. She struggled to get her point out, but eventually pushed the words through her trembling lips.
I don't think you understand how long liquor takes to burn. A splash of Grand Marnier in a pan goes out pretty quick, but a shot of Sambuca, let alone an entire growler's worth of vodka? We'd just go from a magical booze monster with glass claws to a burning magical booze monster with glass claws. I mean, we can try if you want. God knows I've only messed this up so far.
Put my thumb on the bottle's opening. She had a point. Things were bad enough without literally setting them on fire, but I was running out of ideas fast and wanted this disaster behind us as soon as possible. The more devastating the damage, the more Annabelle would blame herself, which was the exact opposite of what I'd hoped to accomplish. This isn't your fault, I said, my voice flat to hide the shame. I messed with your spell.
What?
She turned an apprehensive eye on me, frowning as her features tightened. I thought you needed a confidence boost, I explained, avoiding her gaze, pretending to be more interested in the monster's actions. So I added something to the shot to bolster your self-esteem. I didn't think it would backfire so badly. If anyone's the incompetent witch here, it's me. I didn't have the vocabulary to read Annabelle's emotions through her features. Layers of exhaustion, pain, betrayal, and even relief piled atop one another to create a complex texture beyond my ability to interpret. Like too many ingredients dropped in a stew, they lost their individual identity to become something new and different.
You mean this isn't my mess?
I shook my head. Nope. This one is on me. As if freshly exorcised, a weight was visibly lifted from my friend. Her shoulders lost a little of their slouch, and her neck straightened by 1/2 degree. Her frown, which had been one of fear and recrimination, shifted to express instead a new grit on her part. I wouldn't say Annabelle was 100% back from her funk, but at least she wasn't shouldering the entire weight of the situation any longer. And that made her a lot more useful in the minutes to come. So there's definitely bad vodka and good vodka, but there's no I have a handle of terrible vodka I use for cake decorating to mix with food coloring. I've had it for approximately 15 years, and it smells like paint thinner, and that is literally what I use it for. I get Svedka. Svedka is my vodka of choice. I put it in Newman's pink lemonade because I'm classy. I'm sad this is empty. Okay. A clattering of pots and pans came from the kitchen. The creature was emptying a cupboard of cauldrons and other cooking vessels. The noise was deafening, and even the monster seemed startled by what it had wrought. Hey, Eric's voice echoed from the other side of the apartment. Are you guys okay? That's a lot of... He stopped dead in his tracks. Flannel pajama pants, gaming headphones still around his neck, and eyes the size of ping pong balls stricken with shock. What a sight it must have been for him. His little sister and his roommate cowering behind a couch while a blob of vodka and Irish cream, like some nightmare amoeba, tore through his kitchen. Eric hadn't been on the front lines of Achewillow's little shadow wars against demons and ghosts. He knew of macaron sprites and hellgates through my and Annabelle's tales. Coming face to face with the genuine horror brought to life was still jarring to him. Stand back, Eric warned, stepping forward while putting up his fists. Flexing his arms and adopting a convincing combat stance, he started to inch forward towards the kitchen, ready to exchange blows with the vodka golem. Oh, my brave brother. How he would have been torn to shreds if not for my and Annabelle's hissing and waving of hands, urging him back to his room. "Stay away from that thing, you idiot," I ordered.
Eric, please, Annabelle insisted. Just hide in your room. Miriam and I have this.
"You get in your room," I snarled, "and you do not step foot outside of there until we go get you. Understood?" While Eric hesitated, the monster turned around to face him. Well, as much as anything without a face or a front can. Spreading itself wide and tall, the golem made itself look big and menacing. Glass claws and fangs glistened under the kitchen lights, emphasizing their sharp edges. Seeing what he was up against more clearly, Eric took a step back and lowered his fist. As he was about to disappear behind the counter and down the corridor, he raised his hands and gave Annabelle and me one last look.
Go,
Annabelle pressed on one last time. With that final order, Eric vanished. Only the click of the door's bolt confirmed he had gone back to his room to wait out the crisis. Apparently satisfied, the creature returned to its search. Either it was going to turn the entire apartment upside down, or it knew there was more vodka from which it could feed somewhere. Clumsy yet determined, it tore open cabinets and cupboards, emptying the contents until it finally stopped. Not because there wasn't more to explore, or for lack of energy. Fully half the bottom cupboards in the kitchen had yet to be investigated, and whatever unnatural force powered the golem, it showed no sign of weakening. No. It stopped because it had found. Hidden behind the counter, we could still hear it sloshing around. The sounds of plastic being punched through and torn open told us all we needed to know about the homunculus's activities.
New plan,
Annabelle said, snatching the bottle of Irish cream from my hand. She pushed past me, determination having replaced self-recrimination. Annabelle's battleground had always been parties and gatherings. She was, and still is, a social warrior. Her weapons are boundless intrapersonal energies and the ability to talk to anyone about anything at any moment. The spoils of her victories are the joy she sees in people having the time of their lives. She was built to become a legendary bartender. On that evening, though, she showed a rare new side of herself. Still cunning, but with an edge of anger, she stormed to the front of the counter, and before I could warn her against such foolhardy behavior, she kicked the side of it.
Hey!
A monster the size of a dog had vanished behind the counter, terrifying for its speed, strength, and the arsenal it had grafted onto itself. What rose in response to Annabelle's provocation was something else. Still not as tall as a man, rather it had the volume of a wolf or a lynx. This was a true predator, made menacing not only by its mystical nature and unpredictable attitude, but by sheer weight and size. Rounding the counter and walking on 4 improvised limbs, it let out a gurgling growl. Without lungs to push out air or vocal cords to shape the sounds, all it could do was move the liquor in its body to create noise. The results were strange and unsettling.
You poor dumb beast,
Annabelle said, trying to keep the golem's attention.
You've no idea what's going on, do you?
Jerking the bottle of Irish cream towards the monster, she splashed the beast with some of the liquor. Thirsting, demanding, the creature absorbed the tan-colored liquid. Like an eel in water, the splash snaked its way through the monster's body, swimming until it found its way to the lump that served as the brain, attaching to the pre-existing organ. As soon as the unnatural assimilation was complete, the golem jerked. its form refined and its movements gaining precision and fluidity.
That's right.
Annabelle teased further.
Feels good to think a little clearer, doesn't it?
She shook the brown bottle, enticing the monster with the bait of intellect.
Miriam,
She handed me the bottle.
think you can keep luring it out? Like to the garage, all the way down the stairs. Don't give it too much. Let's not make the damn thing any smarter than it needs to be.
Without hesitation, I took the bottle and stepped between her and the beast. In doing so, I had become the new bait, and this fresh position put into perspective what it was we were dealing with. "What's the plan?" I asked, hoping a reassuring answer would bolster my courage.
The plan is to trust me.
With that uninspiring answer, I heard the door open behind me, my friend's steps hurrying down the apartment stairwell. The vodka golem gurgled a fresh threat. Closer now, I could smell the inebriating fumes emanating from its body. Without replenishment, such a volatile form would eventually dry itself out into nothing, leaving behind a glob of curdled Irish cream. By the time that happened, though, the monster could cut a bloody swath through Achewillow, or, failing that level of ambition, through Annabelle, Eric, and me.
Okay.
I stepped backward through the threshold. "Want to get smart, little buddy? I've got just the thing you need." I splashed a little more at the monster, watching as the phenomena repeated, including the refinement of the beast's body language. No doubt about it, I had its attention. Walking backwards, struggling not to trip down the stairs, I did my best to lure the creature after me. Whenever its attention would wane, either because I'd strayed too far or the new environment offered fresh sensations to experience, I would splash some more Irish cream into its body. By the time I got to the garage level, the brain had gotten to the size of a baseball, and the liquor golem had adapted to walk on two improvised limbs that could be described as feet. Either through mimicry or necessity, the monster now behaved as a clumsy biped, having gone so far as to move its brain into the bulbous appendage that could be described as a head. The smell of oil and moisture mixed with that of vodka and Irish cream to create a blend reminiscent of the back of clubs in Montreal. It was the stench of where my friends would go to smoke between songs. I hated those places, and this garage, with the dim lights and stained concrete floors, felt like an almost perfect replica. Aging and weak fluorescent lights fought to outline the vodka golem's form as it stood, one foot in a puddle of foul water, the other on chipped concrete next to a rusted metal drain. I wondered for a second. Had I given this monster, through repeated dosage of Irish cream, enough intelligence that it understood its situation? Was there a point where it became unethical to destroy the beast? The thoughts barely touched upon my consciousness before a stream of pressurized water cut through the vodka golem, slicing it neatly in half. Its legs, detached from the main body, fell to the floor like a bucket thrown from a window. The liquor splashed onto my legs, soaking through my sock as it ran down my calf. Most of it, however, fell to the floor and flowed down the rusted drain. From the shadows, holding the nozzle of a gardening hose like a pistol, Annabelle stepped forth, ready to dish out more liquid violence. She didn't wait to gloat or hesitate to admire her handiwork. Satisfied with the immediate results, she shot again, cutting another chunk of the golem from the hole. Her third attempt didn't have the same impact. The vodka golem anticipated her move, and although it wasn't fast enough to dodge the stream of water, it was smart enough to absorb it. That turned out to be a fool's gambit. We knew from its disdain that the vodka golem had no taste for water. Even the other liquors were left in puddles on the kitchen floor. Only vodka would grow its body and Irish cream its mind. Faucet water sprayed from a dirty garden hose while bloating its form did not nourish. The creature grew, swirling clouds catching the dim light where alcohol and water struggled to mix. The body, while larger with every moment, was losing cohesion. It took clumsy steps, fighting to keep its failing balance. The water would sweat out of the monster in buckets, dripping down to the floor almost as fast as it was being absorbed. With the water, though, came copious amounts of vodka. The smell alone testified to it. The golem was diluting, becoming less potent with every gallon of water it drank. When it got to the size of a large man, but round as a beach ball, a final tremor ran over its surface. Then, unable to maintain its form any longer, the creature broke. Like a giant water balloon, having reached maximum capacity, the surface tension that kept it together failed, and the entire beast fell to the ground. A tsunami of water and vodka, though mostly water at this point, splashed every surface of the garage, including Annabelle and me. Soaked, we both stepped forward, eyes scanning the wet concrete, looking for that one final problem that needed solving.
There,
Annabelle said before unleashing one last blast of water from her hose. She reminded me of a janitor trying to wash out some offending piece of detritus from the ground. She sprayed the lump of Irish cream and grenadine, breaking it apart with water before pushing the fragments down the drain. She kept spraying like that for another minute, taking no chance that the golem would somehow reassemble itself while making its way through the sewers of Achewillow. "I'll get you new dishes," I said as we cleaned up the kitchen. "And new liquor." I mopped while Annabelle would wipe the floor with towels to finish the job. She wore gloves so as not to get any more cuts from the broken glass. But good liquor this time. Quality ingredients matter.
you don't have to do that.
Annabelle said, emptying the dustpan of wet glass into the garbage.
I mean, you absolutely need to get me new dishes and booze, but just replace what got wasted.
I leaned on my mop, resting my chin on the handle. Night had fallen and the apartment was dimly lit in that cozy way that's perfect to watch movies in. Getting top-shelf booze to replace all her losses was going to be a hit on my finances. Booze can get pricey quick. And we'd have to work together to find the alcohols that use the most natural ingredients and processes. But in the end, if it meant not having a repeat of that day's incident, it was going to be worth it. "It's the least I can do," I explained. Mother, this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing. This liquor magic thing, it sounds like cooking with booze, but it's not. I thought, in all my hubris, that I could figure it out, that I had figured it out. Truth is, though, I barely know what I'm doing with the kitchen magic. I get the basics, but most of the time I'm recycling recipes left by the other Dufour witches that came before me. I haven't even added a single new page to the family cookbook. I'm in no position to be a teacher. Annabelle wrung out a towel before noticing the wound on her arm had reopened. She dabbed the cut with a towel, wincing as the mixed liquor stung her flesh.
That would have been awesome,
she said between gritted teeth.
You know how much fun it would have been to have you as a mentor? The two of us mixing magical cocktails and eating magic muffins or whatever. I would have loved that.
I mopped a little more, swishing the nasty puddle of random alcohol around, hoping to see the end of it soon. "I'll help you find a proper teacher," I said, focusing on the tiles underfoot. "And I'll share as much knowledge, theoretical knowledge, as I can with you. That starts with getting you good ingredients. Maybe we can build you an altar. Turn this kitchen into your own little sanctum of liquor magic." Annabelle kneeled down and soaked up some more booze and glass into her rag. She looked up. Her smile of impish optimism finally returned.
I like that,
She said, pulling herself up to carefully toss out the glass shards again.
Hopefully, Eric doesn't mind me commandeering the kitchen for all my witchy affairs.
We smiled at each other for a few seconds. Her glad to have found a path for her studies, and me happy that my friend and I had found safe footing for our relationship, despite my pride almost getting us killed. Then it hit us. It had been almost an hour. Annabelle had defeated the liquor golem, and we'd started cleaning up. But through the whole thing, there was one little detail we'd neglected.
Eric!
Annabelle rushed to his room to reassure him the crisis was over. Looking at her, soaked in watered-down vodka, fresh cut in need of bandaging, yet still bubbling over with enthusiasm and optimism, I found myself faced with a third flavor of jealousy. One bereft of bitterness or anger. Sure, there was envy, but not because I wanted to take away what she had or experience it myself. Listening to her tell our tale of horror to my brother with so much excitement, I decided that what I wanted above all was to share Annabelle's spirit of adventure, to be part of how she saw the world. I would get there one day. There would come a time when I would satisfy this joyous envy, and that would get me one step closer to understanding Doris and the other Dufour witches. But not before paying a toll of blood and suffering. Achewillow is written by J.F. Dubow and narrated and produced by me, Amy Frost. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast platform. Want to support the show? Buy us a coffee. Go to ko-fi.com/Achewillow to donate. Achewillow has a Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Achewillow for details. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the username Achewillow. Hey, I super have to update that. Hey, look who's back. It's this guy, and he's got a friend.
I have a friend.
It's Mia. Well, you're probably extra plush.
She would climb on my shoulder.
No, I know she do.
Whenever she gets bored.
Look at her.
Whenever she gets bored and I
though.
look like I'm busy with something.
Yeah, look
She
at
doesn't
her.
know there's a camera to look at.
No, but she perfect.
Oh, and she's purring too.
Of
She's
course
very
she
happy.
is. She's a good girl.
She's an awesome girl. What's up, gang? Yeah, it was cool. It's always fun seeing you read in person.
I actually toned down my face for these live ones. I know. I do a lot of gesturing when I record, to the point where sometimes I have to re-record lines because I have smacked the microphone.
And she's got
Bye, Mia. Yeah. No, it's fun. I like doing them. They're just long. It's a lot.
Yeah, well. The problem, like, the specials
No, I know.
are a little over twice the length of a standard episode.
Yup. Which is fine. It's just.
It makes for long reading. you don't get to, like, do many takes. So.
No. Which does make it shorter. Like this episode, the raw audio after I recorded was an hour and 45 minutes. Because of liquid limbs.
Yes, well, I did fix that sentence.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that's going to be fun, like, re-editing season 1 for a book
Mm-hmm.
is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So you guys enjoyed this reading?
Heck yeah, they did.
They're
Of
not-
course
they're not
they
good.
did.
They're not. Well, those are still here. Of course they did. If you guys have questions that you want us to answer before we end the stream,
Now's your
suppose this-
chance.
now's your chance. Like, let us know. Like, what do you want to know? Because, I mean, we're on, like, we're on the precipice of a little bit of a new chapter for Achewillow with this book coming in.
Literally.
And yeah, so like at the same time, like season 7 was the end of Act 2
Yeah.
for the story.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of like we're turning a new leaf. We're getting into it. So whatever
There's a lot
curiosities you guys
happening.
might have, whether it's about how we're gonna handle the publishing, what we have in store that we can share or not, let it fly or not. Like we're not curious. It's your thing.
Whatever.
Mhm.
Whatever.
Won't hurt my feelings. Uh,
Oh, Phil just popped in and out. That's sweet.
I think Phil's busy tonight. Do I have any kind of rough timeline for the book? So that one's a complicated question, made more complicated that I already have a book scheduled for release in 2025.
Yeah.
So
And
on
much of
our
it is
side,
outside of our hands.
yeah, there's shockingly a lot that is not under our control, and I mean that makes sense. The only thing that's under our control is how soon we can deliver manuscripts to Inkshare.
Yeah.
So right now, I already have a manuscript for the third and final book for God in the Shed, and that is my priority for the month of November is getting that edited and rewritten so I can shove it into my publisher's face,
Yeah.
and they can start working on it. They need to assign an editor, and we need to get that done. December is well in November while I'm working on that book. Amy is going to go through season 1 of Aquillo to put in any comments and any observations that she might have.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's nothing, there's nothing. But I'm sure
But there
after
will be
5 years,
things. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
definitely some things that she'll want to see fixed.
Heck yeah.
Then yeah, and then in December, I'm gonna pick up her comments. I'm gonna pick up the manuscript, and I'm going to do a good pass of editing. Check how I can fix the pacing so it is feels better for a book. Because
Yeah.
right now it's completely like it's paced for
Episodic.
episodes.
Yeah.
So and I mean that translates to a book, but it kind of shows there's certain things we can do better if we're pacing it.
In the
Specifically for a
same way
book.
that we write, like, there's word choices we make because it's read out loud
Yes.
that are like, I mean, we've had to change some things because they were written perfectly fine in a perfectly reasonable way, but when you go to read it out loud, it's not.
That it doesn't
not
work
it.
as well. Or it would work if it was just narration with zero acting. Like anyways, all these technicalities. So the plan is that by the end of 2024 or middle of January is to have both of those manuscripts in the hand of Inkshares
Yeah.
so that they can start assigning editors. Aquillow's not going to get much developmental edits just because the story is there. Like there's very little I can accept
Yeah.
as far as dev edits. The developmental edits are about the story itself. I mean,
And
we're
well
in
past
season 7.
this.
Yeah, we're in season 7. Like there's very little that they could suggest as far as changing a character's arc that I'm gonna accept,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be made clear from the beginning. Also, I think the story works fine as is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most of that work is going to be for God in the Shed 3 because it's the end of the trilogy. There's going to be a lot of work. We need to stick the landing on that one, blah, blah, blah. So that being said, at the beginning of the year, I'm probably going to have a sit down like with Inkshares and Amy, and we're going to be talking about the actual release schedule.
Yeah.
And that is dependent on a couple of things. Like once they have the manuscripts and they know what they're expecting, they can better evaluate what the timeline for actual production is going to be. So then it's all about getting it into the proper catalogs and getting early review copies that we can send for blurbs. We've got a
We have a
list of
list.
cool.
Oh boy, the list.
Oh man. And I mean, one of them that I can't believe I only thought about
I'm so glad you
recently.
thought about it.
It's so
It's so
stupid,
smart.
so
It's the
obvious.
smartest choice. I have another
So,
one we'll talk about later. I have another one that's in the same vein.
but basically, we want to send. And that's the thing about working with the publisher. Like, if I send a copy to Christine McConnell, McConnell, yeah,
Yeah.
McConnell, to Blurb, she won't give a damn. But if my publisher goes through her agent to
Yeah.
get a copy to her, then she'll probably consider it as a more serious inquiry.
Annalisa sent
So
me the Henson Company today posted an entire compilation of Rose, and it's so good.
yeah,
I
so
will burn down this goddamn house.
love Rose so much. Kiki, I saw your question. I'm gonna get to it. I
Yeah.
just want to finish my rambling because this is industry stuff and I love it. So,
Such a
but that's
dork.
the thing. Like, the idea is to get it into because distribution has we go through Ingram, which is the big distributor for books in North America, and basically they have a catalog per quarter. So depending on which catalog we put it, then with them we negotiate what the best time for release is. It's usually like, well, Ingram, they're already releasing like 10 horror books in 1 month or
Yeah.
on 1 week. They're not going to put another one there. So it's about like finding the right slot for it. And obviously, like, oh, we would love to do it for Halloween, but Halloween, like, everybody wants
Everybody
to
does
release
it.
horror
And we're
on
not
Halloween.
really like we're not as dependent.
Yeah. Achewillow could be like it could be a spring
Canada
release and I'd be
Day.
fine with. Not gonna because they're gonna like it takes a couple of months before things can get into a catalog and all that back and forth. And when you're asking for blurbs, you need to give the people you're asking for blurbs time to read the
Yeah, yeah,
book.
yeah.
That's anyways, it's all that. But yeah, no, it's so what we're hoping for is that one of the books gets released around this time next year.
Yeah.
And then the other one gets released maybe a month or two after. So, I mean, if it can happen faster, I would be glad. I'd love to be able to go to conventions during the summer with some samples,
Yeah.
but it's like we're dependent on way too many external factors.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
that's the estimates. Uh, Kiki was asking, what more can you tell us about the raccoons and their backstory?
It's coming.
It is coming. That's because we're getting into season 8, and that's something that gets answered in season 8. Um, so I don't want to like reveal anything. It's yeah, without giving spoilers, I can't.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
coming.
can't.
It's coming soon. Like, don't worry about it. It's on the
Yeah,
horizon.
the only thing I can say is that I've purposefully left room for like you've noticed that we've named 4 out of 6 raccoons,
Yeah.
and I've intentionally left 2 of them nameless for um tributes, if you will. I'll give you an example. If Christine McConnell
Yeah.
gives us a good blurb,
Yeah.
I will ask if we can name one of the raccoons after Rose from her series because
I will say, if anyone who is a fan of Achewillow has not seen, what is it called? God damn it.
the Curious Creations
Of Christine McConnell.
She's
Yeah.
also got a YouTube channel now.
She does have a YouTube channel, and she has an incredible Patreon. And if I could have enough money, I would back her Patreon so I could watch all her videos because she's incredible. She's goals.
She's I which she was a little bit of the inspiration behind Aquilo.
Yeah, it certainly helped.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't hurt.
No.
I'm pretty sure the idea of having a bunch of raccoons was a direct.
It's because Rose is the best.
Yeah, because Rose is just fantastic. I love Rose. Franken raccoon. She
So
is
good.
6 raccoons. and
She
a
is
skunk.
6 raccoons. God, I love her.
See, I mean, I don't want to give anything away. Like the raccoons are there. They are in the bones of Aquilo, and it's gonna be fun
Yeah,
to.
Lisa.
I'm eager to reveal what they are.
Yeah.
It's Annalisa.
Yeah. Everybody agrees. Rose, like, look,
Yeah, Rose is the best.
we all love brioche. And we should. Because brioche is a darling. However, Rose.
Oh, so how did we decide on kitchen magic? And do either of us bake? Well, both of us bake.
We do.
Amy probably more than I do, easily more than I do.
Yeah.
And how did we decide on kitchen magic? Well, I mean, we've told the origin story of Achewillow a couple of times, but in basically after publishing a couple of books, I realized that the publishing schedule, as I just described, is extremely slow.
Yeah.
And I write faster than publishing can keep up.
Yeah.
So I wanted something to both keep my skills sharp and practice writing, because writing is a skill. It's not a talent. It's not magic. You need to work on it to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I needed something to write. And I had listened to Amy do some narration and some production work for America's Next Top Podcaster. I decided, let's do a collaborative work. So I took some of the coolest things from both of our work and smashed them together. And I write horror, so let's have some witchy stuff. Amy does kitchen, I think we can say.
Sure.
And so let's do for kitchen magic. I mean,
I'm also a ninny.
there's no.
That was the other part of it. And so like we wanted it was horror on a level.
Yeah.
I mean my tolerance is inched.
So how comfortable are you with season 8 being just twisting the knob a little higher? Nothing too harsh. Just like, I mean,
I don't know. It's been pretty chill for a little bit. Other than the pre-order exclusive, which is a scary one.
yeah. Well, the pre-order exclusive is like the nightmares that I describe in there about like colorful little things torturing me while I am chained to a bed.
Yeah.
That is the exact inspiration. That is what I went through. And mine wasn't because there were gremlins, but because morphine is
It's a hell of a drug.
It's not a good drug. I don't
not
know how
good.
people do this stuff recreationally. It's
Recreationally.
the worst.
Yeah.
It's a depressor and a mild hallucinogenic. Like, you're not gonna get a good trip.
No.
It's not designed for that.
So
Yeah.
so you were here a couple weeks ago. We hung out.
I was in your area.
In
Yes.
my
I left my
neighborhood.
coat.
And I realized that I purchased 2 books over the course of that weekend. So I purchased the Tea Witch's Grimoire, because that was a hole in my food witch book collection. And I purchased Horror for Weenies, which is phenomenal.
You started reading it?
Yes, and between this book and the podcast Random Number Generator Horror Podcast number 9, I know a lot about horror movies, and I have not had to watch any of them. And I'm really happy about that.
I was so happy to discover that Emily, who wrote Horrors for Weenie, was like my table mate for that convention. Was fun, because that could have been a very long day.
This was the best. It came with a sticker that says Proud
Yeah.
Weenie. I'm about it. It was
Apparently-
great because you were like, we need to go look at books. And I was like, great. Do they have any for wimps? And he's like, my table mate's book is Horror for Weenies. I was like, well, I guess I'm buying it.
Apparently for her book launch, she what's his name called? Clay McLeod Chapman, who's a fairly well-known horror writer, showed up dressed up as a hot dog.
Nice.
Yes.
That's excellent.
And so she chased her around at her book launch. Chased him around at her book
Amazing.
launch as he was dressed as a weenie.
Perfection.
The horror community is like,
They're
I mean,
so good.
was this your first time doing like any kind of horror convention?
Yeah.
You gotta admit, like, it's not what you expect.
No.
They're so nice.
No.
They're so chill.
Salem on any
Like-
Tuesday is scarier than any of those people.
I mean,
They're so
everybody's just so
I got to hear a
freaking
story about how a
cool.
guy's eyes got chroma keyed out doing local cable. I'm like, what are we even? I'm like, okay. Cool.
that's Bracken, who is so much nicer to me than I ever deserved to. I don't know him that well, but he's always super cool to me.
Maybe he's just cool. Like, there's those people.
No, he's just cool, but he seems cooler to me than I deserve. It's almost bizarre.
Yeah, I feel like you just generally feel that way, though.
Yeah. Anyways, the horror, the whole shifting from sci-fi to horror, it was probably my best decision ever.
I miss the sci-fi. It's still my favorite book.
I'm gonna go back to it. Like
I
I want
know.
to finish Arcandroid. It's really a question of just not having time.
Yeah, of course. That's always
'Cause-
the way.
Yeah, because here's like a little like behind the curtains things. Like Amy already knows all of this, but when I published God in the Shed and it got some television interest, that started gobbling up a lot of my spare time. Which means, and it's like whenever it dies down, I have to work on Achewillow or I have to work on another manuscript or something, and then it'll just go back up. And I have written so much garbage for like screenplays and things that will never see the light of day probably, just because of all that television interest. And it's a pain in the ass because I have a full-time job. So every time I want to shift back and go finish up Arcandroid, I can't, and I feel the more time I can't, the more distant I am from it, and the harder it seems to go back. So. But here's the beauty of the Achewillow book thing is we currently have
7 books written.
7 books
Written. Done. Need recipes,
written,
but
done.
otherwise,
We just need
done.
to fix them up, clean them up for book format, but otherwise ready to go.
book 3 could maybe
Book
use a
3
little
needs
love.
it needs some pacing adjustments. Like the twist isn't bad, but the tension needs to be fixed so that it's
Because
better.
we're
and it
not
lands better.
exhausted anymore. I mean, in the same way.
No, we're not in the middle of a goddamn pandemic while writing it. That was so difficult.
After season 2.
After
which
season 2
was-
also. And the season 2 special.
It was good. The
So
season
that's
2
the
special.
thing. Like my commitment to Achewillow is at least 10 seasons. Now that we've got a book deal, probably more. We've talked about post season 10 stuff. So like that means that if Achewillow only puts out 1 book a year, that's the next decade settled.
Uh,
And the contracts for Inkshares is that they own the exclusive distribution rights for 10 years. So for the next 2 decades, by the time I'm 68, if they stop publishing and we do
Oh,
the 10
God.
books, I'll get the rights back, which is fine,
Ah.
by the way. Which is actually, it's better than most book contracts. Book contracts are usually, you give up your rights for life.
yeah.
So I'm good.
68.
So yeah, so basically that frees me because I don't have to worry about putting out a book a year. There is gonna be a book a year.
Right. And then you
And
can
now-
do other books a year.
Well, and that's the thing. Like as much as I love writing for God in the Shed and that universe and those characters, having the 3rd book out and being done with the series unchains me.
Well, it's not that sword of Damascus hanging over your damn head either. It'll just be done.
Did you say Sword of Damascus? You are tired.
Yeah, I am. Damocles. Sorry.
Yes.
In case you
it took me a
noticed,
sec to
I've
realize
been
what the
reading
problem
for
was.
like an hour and a half. No, I was watching a lot of Forged in Fire.
Ah, there you go. That's fair enough.
So,
Everything's
you know,
Damascus there.
Exactly. So it really Damocles.
Yeah.
It's like when I
But yeah,
mess up Schrodinger and Chekhov.
Yeah.
Just,
No,
I
can
just
see
flip
that.
flop them all the time without even thinking about it. It's
Yeah,
great.
Schrodinger's sword is
Schrodinger's sword is really good.
it's different.
Really good. Chekhov's sword also good.
Yeah, also good. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm gonna be unchained from several responsibilities, which means I can go back to working on. Yeah, Chekhov's cat is very different.
Chekhov's cat is way better.
That's the thing.
I
I
feel
can
like
go back.
William is Chekhov's cat.
William is. I season 8 is gonna be so interesting because
Oh boy.
I can finally tell a little bit more about those animals.
Hmm.
So yeah, with being unchained from all of these things, I get to go back to some of my older manuscripts and get them done. And I won't say one of the first, but like maybe the second one I'm gonna get back to is Arcandroid.
Yes.
So yeah, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, publishing is a nightmare. It is.
It's fine. Everything's great.
I'm just eager. Like I've been going through all these cons for the past 3 years, and I never have something new.
Oh yeah.
Like
You're just gonna have
being
all
able
kinds of
like
new things.
2025 is going to be so much work, but I get to finally put out some new stuff, and not just those two books, but like also like the Achewillow books are going to also bring us some new listeners.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be so much fun, and like one of the things that's interesting about working with InkShares is that they are very proactive on second market stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't want to say like an audiobook is guaranteed, but I've published 3 books and 3 on 3 have gotten audiobooks. We
Mm-hmm.
get the, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a translation to French, so that's gonna be
That's wild.
interesting. Um,
Wild.
Wild indeed. So
Mm.
I was today I was in a meeting with the publisher about something completely different, and he was projecting that this like within the next year, Gone the Shed with the third book coming out might break the 100,000 copies sold. So like it's a good place to have Aquilo be,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited to see what's gonna happen because listen, I like God in the Shed. I think it's great. I think Aquilo is a far stronger story with far stronger characters. So who knows?
Uh-oh, here comes trouble.
Oh, there she is.
I'm gonna get yelled at. It's gonna be good.
Yep. So, does anybody else have any questions, or are we allowing Amy to go to bed?
I'm fine. I just need another drink.
I mean, I also have things to go do.
Yeah.
I've got like at
You gotta go trick or
10:30,
treating.
10. No, because they don't. Montreal had this really cool things when I was just out of college. Like there was this one street you could go up past 9:30 in the evening as an adult, and you could trick or treat for shots,
Yeah, buddy.
and that was great. Shots and whatever leftover candy they had, it
Yeah.
was fantastic, and they don't do that anymore, and that is the saddest thing ever. Because that street was in an area of Montreal that got super gentrified, and where the apartments used to be mostly students and young
Yeah.
adults and young
Yeah.
professionals. Now it's all a bunch of millionaire,
Perfect.
yeah, millionaire.
I mean,
posers.
my
It's
college
terrible.
dorm is now multi-million-dollar condos, so I get it.
Yeah, it's exactly it's the same phenomenon.
I get it.
So yeah, no, I'm not gonna go trick or treat, but I used to do NaNoWriMo. Now I'm doing a different challenge because NaNoWriMo sucks.
They suck.
They're embracing AI and f that,
And in a bad way,
but
like, and even
I
like,
know.
and their argument, we're not gonna, but their whole
No, we're not.
argument for it was just the worst.
It's what makes it terrible is that their argument is bad,
Yeah.
and it's not even honest because their honest reason for embracing AI is that 2 of their sponsors are AI products.
Yeah.
And they need to bow to their sponsors because they like. I would love to see. Here's the thing. I would
I
love to
set him
see.
off.
I would love to see NaNoWriMo's books,
Yeah.
how they spend their money,
Mhm.
because year after year they would get over $1 million in donations
Sure.
And that's not including profits from merch sales, and they sell merch.
Right.
And usually they would be like between 5 and 12 employees. Where does the money go? Like, this is supposed to be a nonprofit, so they're not being taxed for anything. Where did the money go? On the website? They had a dinky website. Like, and so add to that the fact that they had like about a dozen sponsors. Where does the money go? Why did they need to sell their soul to an AI company? Anyways, they suck, but I'm still doing writing
Well, yeah,
challenge
no,
in
obviously,
November.
because it's first Christmas.
Exactly. First Christmas is November for me. It's where I do a lot of writing. This month I'm gonna do a lot of editing, but I kick it off by going to a cafe on Halloween night, and at midnight I start work on whatever project I'm doing and do that until 1 a.m. So that's the whole point. At about 10:30, I'm gonna get in my car. I'm gonna drive to the cafe I want to go to, which is a little far from my place because 24-hour cafes are rare now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink a latte or some kind of frappuccino, and at midnight, I'm gonna start editing A God in the Shed 3. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. It's very exciting. Exciting times, everybody.
2025 is gonna be madness.
Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, I guess if we don't have any
Let's just
further
set them.
questions,
JF did 99% of the stuff that we posted for the campaign, and he does 100% of the episode art. We posted a couple things from our very good friend Phil Rude, who is a delight.
Phil Root, yeah. If you I don't have his address here, but like if you Google Phil Root,
philrude.com, or is it philrudeillustrator.com? One moment.
He's a very good illustrator. He's got a very gonzo style of illustration that I love. It does fantastic inks, and he's just an all around just amazing dude. So we do borrow some of his art once in a while, some of Audie's art.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of it is stuff that I cobble up together, usually at the last minute.
I'm looking.
We put a lot of work into every episode, now that I think about it.
Yeah. Oh man. Why can't I not find it?
What? Phil's address?
Website. He's Phil
Yeah,
Rude.
Travis put it up.
Oh, he did.
It's in the chat.
Oh, Phil Rude art.
And Annalisa put the Instagram.
We do love Phil. Phil's great.
Our peeps here are super cool and did fix our lack.
I'm Phil's guy for sending pictures of his grandson. He's like, you'll get sick of it. I'm like, I assure you, I will not. Please send me all of the photos. And then I send him ones of my niece. And we swap baby photos all the time. It's a good time.
And it's good because you're tanking the baby photos, so I don't have to.
Yeah, nobody else has to see the baby photos. I see the baby photos. I sent him one of my niece where someone had clearly said, "Hey, smile." And she's like, "Hi." And then he sent me one of his grandson essentially doing the same thing. And his entire face is like scrunched up like a raisin. It's really good. Love that kid. Bought that kid an Achewillow shirt. Oh, I should send you that one. No, he sent it to both of us.
Yeah, I think
of them matching.
Our common.
They are weapons grade
common
cute.
shirts. I respect that people enjoy children.
I just don't want them near me. I like them. I'll borrow them.
This is they all look the same to me, and I sort of expect them to smell. Like I'm fine hanging out with young adults and teens. Like I like humans I can have a conversation with.
Sure. Hey, did you do that tiger drawing yet?
No, I need to get off it. I've been busy. Okay.
Have you? Have we been doing a thing?
Oh my god. You know what the worst thing is?
Hey.
Like this morning I wake up and I'm checking my emails as I do, like as I'm preparing my stuff for the day, and like I see Inkshare's email saying, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna push into production." Wee! And immediately I know it's like, oh, this means the day is gonna be so much more work than it's supposed to be. And the moment I get to work, like I check my emails at work, and there's already a crisis. So we did some mock-ups for a client to bring to a trade show, and they were ready to go. They're in the box, like waiting for shipping. And there's an email saying, "Oh, can you change something on those mock-ups? And can you remove the two on the product because it's not like the sequel of the product, whatever." It's like, fine, I'll do it. And so I do it. I remove the two. We prepared the other mock-ups. I got my guys packing him, and I get another email. It's like, you know what? Actually, can you put the two because everything else in the line has the two? Gotta murder everyone.
I had that problem with a distributor. I sent an invoice and they're like, "Hey, we didn't get this, this, and this, so the invoice is correct. Can you send us an updated invoice?" And I said, "Sure." And then they sent it back and they're like, "Hey, the total should be the total from the first invoice." I love it. I
So,
love it.
Kiki, we do get a lot of things done, but I have a life hack. Basically, the way I get so much done is by having nothing else. I don't have friends to speak of. I don't do anything outside of drawing and writing. I don't go out. I
I go to
barely
work
watch
and
movies.
I hang out here.
Yeah. I go to work during lunch. I'll usually do some planning and some illustrations for something, or prep a meeting. I'll get
Paint,
home. I'll
paint
do
some,
some writing or some painting,
paint some toy
and then I'll go to bed.
soldiers.
Rinse, repeat.
Yep.
Maybe once a month, I'll get together with one of my friends or my brother. We'll play some Warhammer, and that's it. That is my existence.
Welcome to our 40s.
Yes. And I'll probably be doing this until they push me. They push my still animated corpse into a grave.
Yeah. You're going to be put into a corporate dreadnought. It's fine.
Fine. It's fine.
All right. Let's
I
set
need
them
to
free.
go.
You need to go.
I
Let's
need to
set them
go.
free.
I need to go to the washroom in a Kigurumi, so that's going to take
That's
20
going to be
minutes
like
off
a
my
whole
life
thing.
anyways.
Yeah.
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 So, thank you so much, guys, for coming. It's great to be able to announce that we're publishing to an audience as small as it may be, but you guys are clearly like the real ones.
Don't say that. This is going on YouTube.
Oh, no, everyone's the real
They
one.
are the
I
real
love
ones.
everyone.
No. I mean, everybody was like, we this literally would not be happening if it were not for you and how feral you all are.
Yes.
And we
No,
appreciate
exactly.
you. I am very likely, if everything goes as planned, I'm going to be doing a chill coffee stream in the morning, coffee and gaming. So come on back, probably about 9:30 ish Eastern time. That's going to be a new thing on Mondays and/or Fridays. I'm going to be doing a chill morning coffee stream while we play a chill game and have our coffee together.
Well, that's neat. Hopefully, I'll be at work and I can put that in the background.
Exactly. That's the plan. All right, everybody. You all need to leave.
Yeah, we love you. Bye-bye.
We love you. Bye.